Hello, feeds. Hello, fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Matt Orozco here from Macabre Daily, and I'm excited today because I'm joined by Douglas DiMonda and Adam Durbin, who are the co-directors of the upcoming film Traction Park Massacre, which is about to have its world premiere at New York Comic Con on October 9th. So, gentlemen, it's a pleasure having you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
I mean, it's an
Well,
honor.
I'm so excited to talk to you all because I have to admit I did not grow up in New York. I lived there for a few years, so I never got to experience the the park that this is based off of. But I was a huge fan of the Class Action Park documentary that came out a few years ago. But I'm curious to hear from you both. You know, how did you two come together, and how did this idea come together?
Um,
Okay, go
well,
ahead,
I
Adam.
mean, we met initially in we were in fifth grade,
Fifth
same
grade.
school, but we sort of tangentially knew each other. But in sixth grade, uh, somebody was foolish enough to put us in the same classroom, and that just and literally, yeah, it was we were friends from there. We were also gotten in a good deal of trouble from right there, and so this film is sort of a natural extension of that if you kind of extrapolate it out. But our friendship, endured right through high school, and then when high school was done, Action Park was like a thing. It was like you'd see the commercials all the time. So by the time we got our driver's licenses and could go there, Doug and I we went once.
Oh, all
Only
right. Wait, this is where I got to take over,
yeah,
guys.
Doug could take over what happened on one
Well,
visit.
we'd see the commercials, and you just see the. It's like it just looked like so much fun. But the best thing, it looked like there was no one to tell you not to do anything. Like there
Right.
was no like parental kind of people to be like, don't do that. So
Like Camp
so
Nowhere, Camp Without the
yeah,
Southland.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. So we got two of our friends, really close friends. So four of us, we went to the park, and just so you know, all four of us got hurt on different rides that day. You know,
I'm laughing
not
because
not
it's hindsight, but
yeah, not like oh my gosh, yeah, I got to a hospital, but definitely not good.
Well, we
So
also saw people getting hurt even worse, actually.
oh yeah,
We did
completely,
witness
completely.
Wyatt's
But that was the thing. People
presentation.
wanted to watch you get hurt. It
right.
wasn't even like, it's like, oh, is he okay? Nah, man, hopefully he's dead, kind of stuff like that. So, but the moment that Adam and I realized we might be in over our head was we had parked the car, and we're walking to the park, and Adam and I are side by side, and I'm pretty sure at the same time we both turned right a little bit. I think it was right, and we saw what was this ride that was called the Cannonball Loop, and it was a tube, a water park tube type thing where you you go in this
When you get
tube. You
stuck at the top,
actually,
right?
yeah, you start at the top, and you actually go roundabout, like upside down, like do a full loop and come out the bottom. But we realized it didn't look like it was in use, which so. But I remember Adam and I both then looking at each other, and we were really stupid at that time, and just going, "No effing way," just
Nope.
going, "Nope." Even we knew not to do that, and it's because it was closed down for a reason. Because people just constantly got hurt on it. It's like you could see the physics of it. It just did not look like you would build up enough force to go around. There's footage of people actually doing it, and you see it going through, but a lot of times they would stop on the top and just smash in on the
Yeah.
bottom. And they said they were constantly scraping teeth off the
Oof.
bottom of it. So, and then that was just the beginning of the day. And like by the end of the day, like I said, all of us got hurt on different rides. And then Am and I, a few years ago, more than that now, we were looking for a project to do together. We were at this stage in our lives, and we both studied filmmaking, and we had made, we each worked on each other's, student films through college and whatnot, and we just decided to, what could we possibly do? And a horror movie was perfect because you don't have to have big names. You could do it for a relatively small budget. And Adam one day texted me the title. And he just goes Traction Park Massacre, and I went yep. And I called him up, and I think we were on the phone for well over 2 hours, just going over the basics of what we wanted to do there,
Right.
and the rest is history. And then I'll let Adam take over from there if he has anything to add to that.
Anything to fill in, Adam?
Yeah, not really. No, I mean, we could keep talking. I can just say, Doug tells it right. We were looking for something. We hit upon this idea, and really the title. That's what's so wonderful about it as an idea. And we're so thankful that those filmmakers made that Class Action Park movie, because people outside of just the New York area, New Jersey area, know about what this park is. But again, the movie, the park of the true action park is just a jumping off point. We don't actually say that this is the real action park. We call it Action Wonderland. It takes place in the South. But it's funny, as we talk to people all over the country, there seems to be, even if they didn't have the real action park, everybody's got a recollection of some kind of third level rinky dink park where the rides are kind of sketch, and it's like you kind of just always feel in danger there. So it's sort of, I think, a common theme. And yeah, we're looking for an arena of where to set our horror movie. And the minute we had that,
Is where can we kill the most people and
yeah,
have the most fun doing it?
it just suggested itself. And so that conversation about the story, it just kind of unwound and told itself to us in a way. Really fun time, and a fun time making it.
I mean, it sounds like there's a legacy of bloodshed at this location. So it's almost like the natural thing to do is like make a horror movie there. And
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, and
Mhm.
there was a place called Justin's Waterworld. And at the time, I didn't realize, like, you're a kid, you don't realize that the danger and things. In fact, you're more kind of oblivious and ignorant to it, which is why kids get hurt all the time. But I distinctly remember there was one slide that was made of those, like, those like metal ridged tubes that they would use to like pass water through and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of these just were connected together by the absolute shoddiest welding job you've ever seen, which meant that there's like these jagged edges. So
Yeah.
you'd go down this thing and you'd come out looking like you just got mauled by a tiger and possibly with some tetanus. And so
Yeah.
it's like and they also had a slide that was like a racing slide, tool
Yes.
slides. Except the thing was, it would like curve around, and they didn't build the slide walls high enough. So I was a larger kid, and
Yeah.
the weight that I would put, the inertia that I generate going down this fucking thing, like almost made me fly over the edge. And in the edge is the desert, so it's like you're not like you're going into like
Right.
safety. You're flying into cactus and bush. So you're
Yes.
absolutely right that like there was a time in like the 80s and the 90s where there
Great.
were these parks open that just reckless abandon pretty much.
Yeah.
And you didn't know any different until you got hurt, right?
Yeah.
No, right. I mean, it's weird, but when you're a kid, you kind of assume that, like, oh, the adults have figured all this out. Do you know what I
You
mean?
trust.
That's exactly it, Adam. That is exactly it. There's
And
like, oh, it's got to be
yeah,
okay,
this is all right. Somebody like put this together for us.
But there was not an adult in sight in this
That's the
place.
thing. We're at Action Park, and I'm sure not at this park near Tucson. It's like usually,
Yeah.
there's an adult who like owns the place, but who do they hire? They hire like kids to do this. Well, the kids are usually stoned themselves who are running
Or
the
drunk or
you know what I
both.
mean? And they're not like the most mindful of kids. So they just kind of like, okay, you go next. Okay, now you. And it's like,
Because they're kids too. They don't
yeah,
know,
they're
they
kids
don't
too.
responsibility.
Exactly. So
They're
they
just
just
a
like,
little older. That's it.
they kind of just phone it in when somebody goes off the track and gets
Another
impaled
one
on
to
the
hose
back.
down.
They're just phoning it in. In our case, at Action Park, there was an alpine slide, which also,
Oh, the Alpine slide was the best.
yeah, we depict in the movie. But in the real alpine slide of Action Park, there was nothing to prevent you from building up a lot of speed and going right off the track. And we witnessed this as we rode up, and there was people that, who, when you go off the track, unlike
Yeah.
Tucson, there wasn't cactus, but there was nice trees and rocks to break your fall. So,
Well, Matt, it's just what Matt was talking about. It was like there wasn't enough on the Alpine slide. There wasn't enough lit. I mean, like on either side, the track only came up so much, and you had that stick in the middle. So it's like if that stick is down, you are flying. And if you come, and plus also they wouldn't give enough pause between people coming down.
Yes.
So you could have someone behind you going, "Yo, dude, man, come on, move it!" And you're like flying. But if you come too fast, you are just flying off the side of this thing, and you'd see
that one right
people,
out.
yeah, right out there, and you'd see people walking down the hill holding the thing because they just couldn't do it, or they'd be kind of bloodied a little bit or something like
Skin
that.
was more like
Oh
it.
God, I saw one guy that had skin that looked like
Oh,
a sheet that was just flapping, like there was no blood. He literally took off a couple of layers and it was like a flag. It was like, oh my God, it was
Ed
terrible.
Gein be proud, I guess. But
I
like
know, right?
it's
Yeah.
just it's so fascinating because it's such like again, it's such a unique kind of millennial Gen X experience to have these reckless abandoned parks that you go to. And I think when you this park in particular, I remember watching the documentary and kind of the guy who owned it was just, exactly how you described. He's just an adult who just had some money, didn't think about the logistics or he wasn't a physicist. He wasn't, he didn't have an engineering background. He's just like, yeah, that looks pretty fucking cool. I'm going to do that. And without any concern about, is this a practical? Is this safe? And if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but did you all film at the actual kind of abandoned action park, the closed down action park? Or was you built a separate set for these things?
No,
Well,
that
go
that
ahead.
was our way of doing this really. Again, and Doug was right. I mean, we wanted to do it efficiently on a budget. So we didn't even use an actual park. What we did was the conceit of the movie is that the park burned down in an incident 15 years prior to the current day story. So what you see in it are pieces of the park, and then what you see are villain, if you say slasher villains in this movie, are the Terror Twins. They're actual twins. They're the adult sons of the now deceased owner of the park.
Which
And
also, I'm sorry, which is what Matt was referring to, is the kind of guy who's just like, oh, this looks good. Let me build
Yeah.
this,
oh yeah,
and
he
do it.
did all that, but
Yeah.
but the park burned down. They survived and grew up on the land, so they're sort of feral. They're not really educated, and
Bunch of Victor Crowley's running around almost, but without the
it's sort of
mutations,
like that. Yeah, exactly. They're not like deformed the way he is, but they are like kind of their sense of purpose is like if you're on our land, we hunt. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of their thing.
They're
And
adult children at this point,
yeah,
or young
and
adult
so
children.
they have actually, because they're kind of handy with tools and everything, and they used to maintain the park. They've built or maintained certain of the rides, which of course come at a great price if you were to go down them in the way that they've altered them. So it's kind of that's what makes the fun out of it, is that it's really like the pieces of the park that you see have become overgrown by vegetation and kind of the life in the forest. But if you see something in good condition and you go, oh, let's check out this ride, seems like it's okay, that's probably something you should be a little cautious of in our movie anyway.
Making Jigsaw proud, it sounds like, with the
Yeah.
traps and
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, we take pride in the originality of our kills for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Jigsaw's a good, those are really fun movies to
Yeah.
see how they figure it out. That's what everybody's in for, is like how's this gonna, this trap that people are in, how'd it work itself out? So that's, yeah, again, all these things are an influence on what Doug and I have put together here.
I mean, you've also captured, I think, a really fascinating like a premise for a horror movie, which is there's so many abandoned amusement parks. There's actually like there's photographers that will go to these places and take pictures of
Oh
these
yeah.
abandoned
There's
parks
stuff.
across the world, and they're horrifying. Like
Yeah.
they look like absolutely cursed places. And so
Yes.
I think you've tapped into something that horror hasn't really delved into, which is what happens to these places when nobody goes there anymore,
Mhm.
and what's the danger that lurks within them. We've seen like Hellfests and things like that, but those are active parks, right? We're not
Yes.
talking about an abandoned location. So I think
That's
you've really nailed something.
really interesting you say that, because I would watch these YouTube videos of
Yeah.
people going to check out abandoned parks, and we use that as an idea, Adam and I, to write our opening scene, which is a group of YouTubers filming in what they think is the abandoned Action Wonderland, and that's the opening of our movie, and it doesn't turn out well for them.
And you know what? I'm glad it doesn't, because it's better for us as the viewers. Because without that, it's just at that point it is just a YouTube video of a tour of a creepy place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when you watch these things, and we would watch, I'm like going, there's someone going to pop out any second and just
It
mess
feels
this
dangerous.
place
It does feel like
up.
you're somewhere where you don't belong. You're
Mhm.
somewhere where no one's been for a while. It's almost like the fascination people have with going to Chernobyl as a tourist. It's
Yeah.
like you're going a place that you're not supposed to be,
Yeah.
and you're immersing yourself in a place that has, death, destruction, or just is weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird. And our imaginations will pick up the slack for what the physical world doesn't present.
Oh,
So
mine
I
does
think,
all the time.
yeah, I
So,
mean, as a horror movie fan, I'm always like, I consider myself the most prepared because I'm always thinking about my escape plan. I'm always thinking of, and that's probably my anxiety disorder
dude, that's
too. But
us. That is so us. I can't look into a forest, whether it's daylight or night, and I will never look too long. Because if I look too long, I will see something. You
yes.
know, so I never linger because I'm scared of my own shadow. So it's like I can't do it.
Well, that's it's a great point, and I think we kind of use that as a jumping off point that there's while like a children's area of any kind, a children's play area is generally associated with fun and children having fun and everything. The minute that place is abandoned and starts to go to rust and gets overgrown,
Yes.
I don't think there's anything like creepier. You know what I mean? All you got to do is play in the background that little echoey sound of like children's laughter and playing, and it's like the creepiest place on earth all of a
The
sudden.
music box, music box chime will
Oh
Yes.
just
no, no, no! You gotta stop it.
I mean, and the thing is, like, I think it's why, the juxtaposition of childhood and innocence against like darkness and kind of violence, I think is always, it's an immediate grab, I think, for me,
Yeah.
because that's real. Like, you can feel there's a palpable sense of danger immediate, and there's immediacy to it. And it's why, like, we see in so many horror movies that the set decoration has like just these decapitated baby doll heads that just throw a bunch of dirt shoved on them because like that's weird, it makes you wonder like you don't know what happened to that baby doll. Whatever it was, it's not good. Uh,
Right. Right.
and I love the idea of the Terror Twins. Like one of the first things that stood out from the trailer is like these look like just a couple of the most unhinged family members you've ever seen. And we've seen like, duo killers before, but there's something unique to I forget the name of the hats, the one with the little, the ones with little spinners on top, but there's just,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the
but
yeah.
That's a good description. Well, they're our pride and joy. They're played by two amazing actors, Bodhi and Kai Schultz, and their father, who's played by my co-writer director here, Adam Durbin, is
they're your children.
they're his
Yeah.
children. There he
That's
is.
amazing.
He is Oscar von Metzger, and he designed the park. And it. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. It burns down. He burns down with it. He assumes his kids were in there, so he assumes everybody's dead. So he kills himself supposedly, and but they didn't die, and they've been but they're trained like they know engineering because their father was an engineer, so that's how they maintain the park, and they're able to build these contraptions to do things because their father instilled it in them from a very young age. And so if you know all that stuff and you still have the mind of like a 10-year-old, and you're older, it's like that's just dangerous. And
Yeah.
they don't see these people as people, they see them as, oh, a new toy came into my playground to play with. So
Yeah. It's fun. I think we added a couple of elements. The movie very easily could have been a group of these young friends kind of wander into this park and then, get chased around and killed accordingly. But we decided to add like this other element, which makes it kind of interesting and cool, which is the before getting to the park, which is sort of a vague destination. They're like, yeah, we want to, this place is like a place of rumor. So it's like, yeah, maybe we'll find it. We're just going
urban
to
myth.
hang out for the weekend. And along the way, they run afoul, I guess, across of a group of bikers. And the bikers take an interest in them, which is not good because these guys are, kind of nefarious. And so all these people wind up at what was the remains of this park. So it's the group of young friends and it's the group of bikers.
Bunch of
And
red shirts.
and then what happens is like they don't really realize that they're all in like much hotter water than they ever thought they would be. I mean, they come to find that out pretty much, but it kind of added like this fun dimension. So the movie could have been like just, a group of friends go up there and, if they encounter the Terror Twins, it could have been bikers going up there and encountering the Terror Twins. We just were like, well, let's just do the whole thing. And now you got a lot of drama and stuff happening within the group. And then you add to it, you're basically all being, hunted. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you're going to be.
I think that's such a great idea, largely because especially when it comes to I mean, we watch a lot of independent horror films, and I think one of the things I'm speaking for myself here. I don't want to throw my writers under the bus here, but with my opinion, but a lot of times I think some independent films try and lump in more things that don't really fit the place, right? Or they
Yeah.
don't explain or set it up well. They're just trying to stuff it with some ideas. And at the end of it, it's like, okay, well, I like this, I like that. You start to have to parse apart what works and what doesn't. But in your all's case, creating that natural tension where there's already kind of an inciting incident that happens before this that puts all these people in the same place, I think creates an interesting conflict. I mean, obviously, I haven't seen the film yet, but it's like the fact that these two groups are going to be going at each other, not realizing that they're actually all under the prey of the Terror Twins, is really interesting. And I think that's what makes, like horror is informed by paranoia and fear. And that is like the ultimate fear is that not only am I, we're think I feel safe saying we're living in a very strange time right now. And it does feel very much like we are somewhat against each other. And at the top of that, we have this like, administration that's kind of antagonistic to us as people. So it's like we're fighting each other, but at the same time, the real kind of problem isn't so much, it is each other, but really the inciting point of that is the people above it. So I think you've found an interesting way to layer in conflict that feels organic, but at the
Yeah.
same time is interesting.
Yeah,
I,
I
I,
got. Oh, go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
No, I just felt, when we laid out the script that what it did was maintained tension. If it's just the young people going there, let's say something like that, it's really just, you're just sort of counting the time away until they run into some prime
That
danger.
was the point I wanted
And
to.
by kind of bringing in this element of the bikers being another point, they're already in trouble, and conceivably there's a whole movie where just a group of young people go up to the woods and encounter a group of outlaw bikers. That could be its own like horror
Right.
movie. You know what I mean? And we just have this other thing that we're doing here, which is a true horror slasher movie. Um, so I do agree with you though, Matt. It maintains a constant level of tension and drama. And with all of that, we still managed to add like kind of a layer of some comedy into it too.
Have to.
Kind of fun.
Have
Yeah. Need
Right.
levity.
I'm sorry. The other thing I wanted to say is like Am and I we watched tons of these horror movies, and we always find that sometimes like, all right, I'm just waiting for these people to die.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, all right, I like click. It's like as soon as I'm picking up my clicker, I'm like going, oh, this is bad. It's like if you don't, Am and I tried our best to make sure that if someone dies, it meant something. You know what I'm saying? It's like you want to care about these people who are in peril. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to just
Yeah.
wait for them to die so that when it actually does happen, you're like, oh, damn. Or you're like, yeah, about time. I couldn't wait for that fucker to get it, kind of thing.
I mean,
So,
and horror, and like I think that there is what makes great horror, right? Because I think that there's very passable horror movies that just exist, ride solely on the gore and the kills, and that's totally fine. We need
yeah,
all flavors of things in our lives. Variety is the spice of life, right? But the best horror movies are the ones where you actually care about what's happening to the people that are in it. And that doesn't mean that you actually have to connect with them or empathize with them. It just means that you see them as people and you understand the peril that they're facing. And I think by, again, creating that natural tension, I mean, another film that did that is Dawn of the Dead, right? George Romero, if he would have just left with the zombies, that could be just fine. But then he interjects Tom Savini's biker gang at the end, and it becomes absolute pandemonium.
Yeah.
Now it's not like now they're trying to save themselves from the bikers that were impeding their space and the zombies that are being let in from it. So it's like you have this
yeah.
cacophony of terror that's just descending upon this final act. And I think, when I watched the trailer for this and I reached out to Brendan, I was like, this thing is so cool. Like, you got to tell me when this thing is coming out. Like, it looks like so much fun. And my last question for you both is, kind of a fun one, but I've been told it's a little difficult. So by all means, feel free to take your time with it. Is if you were asked to program a double feature with Traction Park Massacre, what do you think would make a good or kind of fitting double bill?
That's a great question. I love that question.
Um, I
Go ahead, man.
I could take it. We there's a few horror films that we kind of felt in at least in tone guided what we were doing. That doesn't mean that they're the same type of
Sure.
movie, but the tonality is. And so if I had to think of what that is, it's probably the two that come to mind are Evil Dead 2, which was terrific and very inspiring to us of how to do something. And the other one is Killer Clowns.
Dude, you
Yes.
literally took the two I was gonna say.
Because Doug and I have talked a lot about this, and we
Yin
watched.
yang, you guys. You're
Yeah,
Totally.
that's us. We're the Terror Twins, actually. It's not even those guys. So it's like, um, but it's like, yeah, I think tone wise, and I mean, whatever. They're both horror movies in a sense, but they're also kind of leavened with a lot of comedy and a
A lot of
lot of,
comedy. But at the same time, scary as freak, man.
yeah, they
Yeah,
have this.
Killer Clowns is scary. Like when they
I
cocoon
know.
people
I
in
did.
cotton candy. That's like
Oh,
I was a kid
God.
when you see that because I think a lot of us who grew up with that movie when it came out
Yeah.
saw it at a time when we were still impressionable enough to be scared by it.
Mhm.
And even though we know it's lighthearted,
I
there's still
still am.
moments in that where it's like, what the fuck is up with these clowns? Like they don't look like it, like they don't look like clowns, but they are clowns, and like
Yeah.
they're so yeah, I think I mean tonality wise, those are two great movies to be based off of. I mean, Evil Dead
Yeah.
2 is we
Yeah.
just did an interview with Ted Raimi over the weekend, and like,
Wow.
talking to him about like the impact. It's funny. I told him that I said Evil Dead is probably the most I think it's inspired the most amount of filmmakers to make movies, make horror movies. And he said, well, I appreciate that. He's like, but I would say Night of the Living Dead is. And I'm like, well, listen, you can't go wrong between either one of those
I know,
movies
right?
because they
Yeah.
they both and they both have defined a genre within horror that is now become the benchmark. And they are also kind of created the genre in a way that like they set the tone for. Before Romero, we didn't really have the kind of zombie we now have. And before Evil Dead, we didn't have the same cabin in the woods
Yeah.
bootstrap kind of filmmaking. So I just got to say, I applaud you both for putting this together. I think having not seen it, I already can attest that I'm probably going to enjoy the hell out of it because the idea, the concept, just the look of the trailer itself, the amount of gore, which I think is going to be in this thing, is probably going to be pretty plentiful. And
Great fun.
I'm so excited for you all to, and for those that are listening to this, if you're going to be at New York Comic Con, make sure to check out the world premiere there on October 9th. New York Comic Con has so much to do there, but get to the screening, go see it, tell the world about it. And distributors, if you're listening to this thing, what are you doing? Grab yourself a piece of Traction Park Massacre. This thing needs distribution in the US. We want it. We needs it. There's time. And Douglas and Adam, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk about the film. If there's anything else that we could do to support it on the Macabre Daily front, you've always got a place to put it.
Oh, Matt, you rock. Thank you so much, man. I really
Amazing, Matt.
appreciate it. Thank
Great
you.
to be here. Hope we can come back and visit again
Yeah,
sometime.
I want to come back after you've seen the movie so you can tell us what the freak were you guys doing? This shit sucks.
Oh, well, I'll be back. No, no, listen, here's the thing. I don't want to say like I am ultra forgiving on all things, but we have a rule at Macabre Daily, which is even if we don't like something, we be constructive, we don't be cruel. But for the most part, when you immerse yourselves in the world of independent horror, I think you start to realize that you look more at the effort and the intention,
Yeah.
and then you try and place that in terms of what you're seeing, as opposed to when I watch a big Hollywood movie, it's like you guys had all the money and the resources. No one tried to make a bad movie, but your excuses are far lesser. Whereas, like with independent films, you're working within a budget and a time frame, location scouting. Usually, you're doing things without a permit or a license, or just getting away with whatever you can. So,
That sounds mighty familiar, but okay.
yeah, it's like Larry Cohen, right? Like Larry Cohen, pretty much was when he was going out there
Yep.
shooting actual police officers, without them knowing about it to get his shot. It's like that guerrilla filmmaking, I think, makes horror so much more palpable and real. And I think you're going to tap, I mean, at the very least, I think you're going to tap into a lot of, New York, New Jersey, tri-state area love because everyone's going to be like, oh, yeah, that definitely could have happened. That could have happened to me and my friends, like you all said.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we really look forward to you seeing it. So,
I'm looking forward to it. And again, thank you both. Looking forward to chatting with you again.
cool. That'd be awesome, Matt. Thanks so
Thanks
much.
so much, Matt.
Of course.